The lecture hall was filled with 300 cadets from 42 different species. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some had so many limbs that they needed special chairs. They all wore the gray uniform of the Galactic Coalition Military Academy, and they all stared at the massive hologram floating above the stage. Commander Volus stood at the center, his 8 armored limbs clicking against the metal floor as he moved. His natural shell was dark green, thick enough to stop a plasma bolt. He was considered one of the toughest instructors in the academy, and today he was teaching his favorite subject. Class 12 Death Worlds, he announced, his voice deep and rough. Planets so dangerous that no known species can survive on them without technology. Today, we study the worst one ever discovered. He pressed a button, and the hologram changed. A beautiful blue and green planet appeared, spinning slowly in the light. White clouds swirled across its surface. Oceans covered most of it. This, Volus said, is Sol3. The native creatures called it Earth. A few cadets laughed nervously. They had heard stories about this planet. Volus did not laugh. Let me tell you what makes Earth a nightmare. He began listing the horrors. The atmosphere was filled with oxygen, a highly reactive gas that could cause fire and rust. The planet had a molten iron core that created unpredictable magnetic storms. The gravity was strong enough to crush most species over time. The weather, Volus continued, is beyond anything you can imagine. Massive storms that span entire continents. Rotating columns of wind that destroy everything in their path. Water falls from the sky with enough force to flood cities. The ground itself shakes and splits open without warning. The cadets shifted uncomfortably in their seats. But the worst part, Volus said, lowering his voice, is the life forms. New holograms appeared. A great white shark with rows of teeth. A lion with golden fur and powerful muscles. A tiny mosquito that carried deadly diseases. Bacteria and viruses that waged invisible wars inside living bodies. Every environment on Earth has predators, Volus explained. In the water. On the land. In the air. Even inside the bodies of other creatures. Nothing on this planet exists peacefully. Everything fights to survive. A young cadet raised a tentacle. Commander, did anything intelligent ever live there? Volus paused. His dark eyes scanned the room slowly. There are rumors, he said carefully. Stories from frontier traders and old exploration records. They speak of a native species. Bipedal. 2 arms. 2 legs. Soft skin with no armor. No claws. No venom. No natural weapons of any kind. He let that sink in. The stories claim this species conquered the entire planet. They say these creatures domesticated wolves into pets. They rode on the backs of massive beasts called horses. They crossed oceans in ships made of wood. They even left their planet and walked on their own moon. The room erupted in laughter. Cadets from dozens of species found this hilarious. A soft, weak creature conquering a Class 12 death world? Impossible. Ridiculous. A children's story. In the front row, a young cadet sat perfectly still. His name was Kangte, and according to his student file, he was a rare subspecies of the Kethri from a distant colony world. He had brown eyes, black hair, and skin that seemed to smooth compared to the armored or scaled bodies around him. He did not laugh. Tay had learned many things since arriving at the academy 6 months ago. He had learned that showing his teeth was considered a threat display. He had learned that his body temperature was alarmingly high by galactic standards. He had learned that his ability to eat almost anything was considered a mutation, not a feature. Most importantly, he had learned to stay quiet, a few seats away. A Silithy cadet named Ren was laughing the loudest. His bioluminescent skin flashed bright colors as he spoke to his friends. Earthlings. Bedtime stories to scare hatchlings. Next they will tell us they breathed fire and shot lasers from their eyes. Tay wrote notes on his datapad. He kept his face calm and empty. His communicator buzzed against his wrist. A coded message from Yoon Hannah, his handler aboard the Coalition flagship orbiting above. Keep your head down. You are not ready to be discovered? Tay deleted the message without replying. He knew his mission. Observe, learn, report. Do not reveal humanity until the coalition was ready. Commander Volus raised his limbs for silence. The laughter slowly died. Whether the stories are true or not, Volus said, Earth remains the standard for Death World classification. No cadet in this academy has ever survived a full simulation based on Earth's parameters. He smiled, which for his species meant pulling back his mandibles to show his inner fangs. That is why your final examination this semester will be exactly that. A simulated survival scenario based on Earth conditions. 72 hours. No weapons. No outside help. Only your training and your instincts. Fear rippled through the room. Cadets whispered to each other in worried voices. Some looked sick. Tay continued writing his notes. He thought about his childhood and soul. He thought about summer, monsoons that flooded the streets. He thought about winter nights so cold that the Han River froze solid. He thought about hiking trips in the mountains where bears and boars still roamed. He thought about the camping trips where his grandfather taught him to make fire with sticks, to find water by watching where birds flew, to read the weather by looking at clouds. Earth had tried to kill his species for 300,000 years. Humanity had survived anyway. They had not just survived, they had built civilizations. They had conquered every environment. They had walked on the moon and sent robots to other planets, and now one of them sat in the front row of an alien military academy. Taking notes about his own homeworld, Tay looked up at the hologram of Earth still floating above the stage. He felt a strange mix of pride and sadness. I will see you again, he thought, someday. But first, he had an exam to pass. And unlike his classmates, he already knew every answer. 3 weeks passed at the academy, and Kong Tay learned the art of being invisible. He never finished first in any test. He never finished last. He stayed exactly in the middle, where no one would notice him. He smiled with his mouth closed. He kept his voice soft, pretended to struggle with things that were easy for him, but some things were harder to hide than others. The zero-gravity combat drill was supposed to be simple. Cadets floated in a large training sphere, dodging slow-moving practice drones. The drones fired soft pellets that stung but did not injure. Tay floated near the edge of the sphere, trying to look clumsy. He let a few pellets hit him on purpose. Then something went wrong. One of the drones malfunctioned, locked onto a Sci-Fi cadet who had drifted into a corner. The drone accelerated to full speed, which was fast enough to break bones. Tay did not think. His body moved on its own. He pushed off the wall with his legs and shot across the sphere like a missile. He grabbed the Sci-Fi cadet and twisted in mid-air, putting his own back toward the drone. The impact hit him between his shoulder blades. It hurt, but he had felt worse. The drill ended immediately. Medical teams rushed in. The Sci-Fi cadet was shaken but unhurt. Everyone praised Tay for his quick thinking, but the instructors looked at his movement data later. His reaction time was recorded as anomalous. His acceleration through the sphere was faster than any Kethri on record. Tay claimed he had been lucky. No one believed him, but no one could prove otherwise. The toxicology exam came the following week. Cadets were shown samples of various chemicals and asked to identify which ones were lethal. Tay looked at the list. He recognized several compounds immediately. Capsaicin, caffeine, ethanol, theobromin. According to the test, all of these were deadly poisons. He raised his hand. Instructor, I believe there is an error. These compounds are not lethal to all species. Some use them as food additives. The instructor, a thin creature with too many eyes, blinked at him. Cadet Tay, capsaicin causes severe chemical burns to organic tissue. Caffeine disrupts neural function. Ethanol destroys cellular membranes. These are classified poisons. Tay hesitated. He should have stayed quiet. The scientist in him could not let the error stand. Where I come from, he said carefully, we put capsaicin in our food for flavor. We drink caffeine every morning to wake up. Ethanol is a recreational beverage. The room went silent. Your colony must have very unusual biology, the instructor said slowly. I will mark your answers as cultural variants. In the cafeteria that evening, Tay made another mistake. He was hungry, and the food options were limited. Most dishes were designed for species with different digestive systems. He chose something that looked like soup with red chunks floating in it. The first bite burned his tongue pleasantly. The second bite made his eyes water. The third bite made him smile. "Is it good?" he said out loud. "What is it?" A nearby cadet looked at him with horror. "That is punishment food. They put Valorian fire extract in it. Only criminals are forced to eat it." Tay looked down at his bowl. He had already eaten half of it. "Can I have more?" Word spread quickly. Strange Kethri cadet could eat poison and ask for seconds. Ren heard the stories. The bioluminescent Silithy had disliked Tay since the first day, and now his dislike turned into suspicion. He began watching Tay carefully, began asking questions about Tay's home colony. "I checked the Kethri records," Ren said one night, cornering Tay in the dormitory hallway. "There is no colony matching your description. There is no subspecies with your features." "Who are you really?" Tay kept his face calm. "The records are incomplete. My colony is very remote. You are lying." Ren's skin flashed angry red. "I saw you in the combat drill. I saw you eat fire extract like it was water, not Kethri. You are not anything I recognize. I am just a cadet trying to pass my exams." Ren leaned closer. "I will find out what you are. I promise you that." He walked away, his light pattern still pulsing with suspicion. That night, Tay received a holographic call from Yunhana. She appeared in his small room as a flickering blue image, her face tight with worry. "Your cover is slipping," she said. "The Academy's Intelligence Division has flagged your file for review." "I know. The exam results were too unusual. It gets worse." Hannah pulled up a data screen. "Coalition scouts have intercepted transmissions from the Sol system. They know Earth exists now. They know humans are real." Tay sat down heavily on his bed. "How long do we have? Weeks? Maybe days?" The council is debating what to do. Some want to make contact. Others want to quarantine the entire system. And if they quarantine us, Hannah's image flickered. Then humanity stays trapped on Earth forever, and you become a prisoner instead of an ambassador. Tay thought about his family back home. His mother, who made the best kimchi in Seoul. His father, who worked at the space agency. His little sister, who dreamed of seeing alien worlds. "I will not let that happen," he said quietly. "And be careful. The final exam is coming. If you fail, they will investigate you. If you succeed too well, they will investigate you. You need to find the middle path." Tay nodded. "I understand." But he already knew the middle path would not be possible. The exam had been changed. Commander Volus had announced it that morning. They would not be using a simulation anymore. The cadets were being sent to a real planet. A real Class 12 death world, with real predators and real dangers. And the parameters matched Earth almost exactly, almost according to the briefing. This planet had predators that evolved specifically to hunt intelligent species. Earth had been dangerous. This would be worse. Tay looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, his homeworld was spinning through space, full of 7 billion humans who did not know their fate was being decided by aliens who thought they were myths. "I will make them see," Tay whispered. "I will make them understand what we are." He just had to survive first. The survival pods fell from the transport ship like metal seeds dropping from a dying flower. 200 cadets in 200 pods, scattered across a continent of green jungles and gray mountains. Kong. Tay felt the impact shake through his bones as his pods slammed into soft ground. The door hissed open, and he smelled the air of an alien world for the first time. It smelled like home, wet earth, rotting leaves, ozone from a recent storm. His body recognized these things before his mind could process them. 300,000 years of evolution had prepared humanity for exactly this moment. He climbed out of the pod and looked around. Thick trees with purple leaves surrounded him. Strange birds called from somewhere above. The gravity pulled at him slightly harder than the Academy station, but his legs had been built for Earth's pull. This was nothing. His survival kit contained basic tools: A knife that was more like a sharpened stick, a small container for water, a thin blanket, nothing else, no weapons, no communication devices, no maps. The mission was simple. Reach the extraction point 60 kilometers to the north within 72 hours. Anyone who could not make it would be picked up by rescue teams. But their academy career would be over. Tay started walking within the first hour. He found fresh water by following the sound of flowing liquid. He tested it by putting a drop on his inner wrist and waiting. When no burning or itching occurred, he drank deeply. Within the second hour, he found edible plants by watching what the small animals ate. If the local creatures could digest something without dying, there was a good chance he could too. Humans had iron stomachs compared to most galactic species. Within the third hour, he heard screaming. He ran toward the sound and found a group of cadets huddled in a clearing. 3 of them were injured. One had been bitten by something with large teeth. Another had stepped on a plant that shot poison needles. The third had simply collapsed from exhaustion. Unable to handle the heavy gravity, Ren was among them, his bioluminescent skin flickering with stress patterns. Ren said when he saw Tay. "What are you doing here?" "Same as you. Trying to survive?" "We need to move," another cadet said. "The predators will smell the blood soon." Tay knelt beside the bitten cadet. The wound was deep but clean. He tore strips from his blanket and wrapped them tightly around the injury, applying pressure to stop the bleeding. "What are you doing?" Ren demanded. "That is not standard medical protocol. It is where I come from." Tay finished the bandage and helped the cadet stand. "Can you walk?" The cadet nodded weakly. "Then we move. Now." Something about Tay's voice made the others listen. Maybe it was the calm certainty. Maybe it was the way he moved through the jungle like he belonged there. Whatever the reason, they followed him. 6 hours later, 40 cadets had been evacuated from the planet with injuries. The rescue teams were working constantly, pulling broken bodies from the wilderness. Tay's group had grown to 12. They moved through the jungle in a single file line, stepping where Tay stepped, stopping when he raised his hand. "How do you know where to go?" a small cadet asked. Her species communicated partly through color changes, and right now she was pale with fear. Tay pointed up at the sky, where 3 moons hung in different positions. The moons move in predictable patterns. By tracking their positions, I can calculate our direction. But you had no instruments. No star charts. How did you know the patterns? Tay hesitated. I watched them last night before the drop. I memorized their movements. It was a half-truth. The real answer was that humans had been navigating by celestial bodies for thousands of years. His grandfather had taught him to find his way using the stars over Korea. Go well, and the principle was the same everywhere in the universe. That night they made camp in a shallow cave. Tay showed them how to make fire using friction, spinning a stick against dry wood until smoke appeared, then gently breathing on the ember until flames caught. The other cadets watched in amazement. "Fire," Ren whispered. "You made fire with sticks? My people discovered this technique very early," Tay said. "It changed everything for us." "What do you mean?" Tay fed small twigs to the growing flame. "Fire keeps predators away. Fire cooks food, making it easier to digest and killing parasites. Fire provides warmth in cold climates. Fire creates light in darkness." He paused. "Fire is how my people conquered our world." Silence fell over the group. The fire crackled and popped, casting dancing shadows on the cave walls. "Your world," Ren said slowly. "You keep saying that. What world? What colony could possibly prepare someone for this?" Tay looked at the flames for a long moment. Then he made a decision. "It's not a colony," he said quietly. "A planet. A Class 12 death world. The one Commander Volus told us about." The cadets stared at him. Earth Tay continued. "I come from Earth. I am human." No one laughed this time. They had seen too much. They had watched this strange cadet navigate impossible terrain, treat wounds with brutal efficiency, and make fire from nothing. They had followed him through a nightmare and survived. "Humans are real," Ren breathed. The stories are true, some of them. Tay smiled, keeping his lips closed. We cannot breathe fire or shoot lasers from our eyes, but we learn to survive. We learn to adapt. We learned to keep going when everything around us was trying to kill us. A distant roar echoed through the jungle. Something large was hunting in the darkness. The cadets pressed closer to the fire, fear written on their various faces. Tay stood up and looked out into the night. Stay here. Keep the fire burning. I will watch. You are going to guard us? The small, color-changing cadet asked. Alone? My people used to do this for each other, Tay said. We called it keeping watch. Someone always stayed awake, while the others slept. That is how we survived the nights. He walked to the mouth of the cave and sat down. Facing the darkness behind him, 12 alien cadets slowly relaxed and closed their eyes, trusting a human to keep them safe. Outside, the jungle snarled and hissed and screamed. Tay watched it all with patient eyes. He had seen worse. He had grown up on worse. This planet thought it was dangerous. It had never met humanity. The storm came on the second night. Tay felt it hours before the first drops fell. The air pressure changed. The insects went quiet. The wind shifted direction and carried the smell of rain. We need to move, he told the group. Now, it is the middle of the night, Ren protested. We cannot travel in darkness. We cannot stay here either. Tay pointed to the sky, where clouds were swallowing the moons one by one. A major storm is coming. This cave floods. I saw the watermarks on the walls. The group gathered their few belongings and followed him into the jungle. Tay moved quickly, searching for something specific. He found it an hour later, a hillside covered with rocky outcrops. There, he pointed to a dark opening between two massive boulders. A deeper cave system. The rock formation means it drains downward, not upward. We will be safe there. They barely made it inside before the sky broke open. Rain fell in sheets so thick that visibility dropped to zero. Lightning split the darkness every few seconds. Thunder shook the ground hard enough to knock loose rocks from the ceiling. Across the planet, emergency beacons activated by the dozens. Cadets who had found shelter in low areas were flooded out. Cadets who had climbed trees were struck by lightning or blown to the ground. The rescue teams worked through the night. Pulling survivors from the chaos, Tay's group huddled deep in the cave, listening to the storm rage outside. They were scared, but alive. My people call this type of storm a typhoon, Tay said softly, trying to keep their spirits up. On Earth, they happen every year in certain regions. My grandmother used to tell stories about surviving them when she was young. Your grandmother survived storms like this? The small color-changing cadet asked. Many times. She lived to be 93 years old. She said the storms taught her to respect nature, but never to fear it. The storm lasted 8 hours. When it finally passed, the sun rose on a changed landscape. Rivers had formed where none existed before. Trees had fallen in tangled piles. The air smelled of broken plants and wet earth. Only 64 cadets remained in the field. The rest had been evacuated. Tay led his group toward the extraction point. They were close now, less than 15 kilometers away. One more day of travel and they would make it. But the planet had one more test for them. They found the predator blocking their path at midday. It was massive. Easily 4 meters tall at the shoulder. 6 legs supported a body covered in armored plates. Its head was mostly mouth, filled with teeth designed for crushing bone. 2 small eyes tracked their movement with cold intelligence. The creature had been injured in the storm. A fallen tree had trapped one of its legs, and it had torn itself free at the cost of deep wounds. Now it crouched in the narrow valley that was their only path forward, bleeding and angry and hungry. We go around, Ren whispered. There is no way around, Tay replied, studying the terrain. Cliffs on both sides. The storm washed out any other paths. Then we wait for rescue. Our beacons are for emergency evacuation only. If we trigger them, we fail the exam. The group fell silent. 13 cadets stood in the shadow of the trees, staring at the monster that blocked their way. I will handle it, Tay said. He stepped forward before anyone could stop him. "Are you insane?" Ren hissed. "That thing will kill you." "No," Tay said calmly. "It will not." He walked into the clearing, making no attempt to hide. The predator's eyes locked onto him immediately. A low growl rumbled from its throat. Tay stopped 10 meters away. He planted his feet firmly and stood straight, making himself as tall as possible. He stared directly into the creature's eyes without blinking. Then he did something that confused every alien watching. He yelled. It was not a word. It was a sound, deep and loud and aggressive, rising from his chest and exploding from his throat. He raised his arms above his head and waved them, making himself look bigger. He stomped his feet and kept yelling, a continuous roar of pure dominance. The predator flinched. It was wounded. It was tired. It had hunted intelligent species before, but none of them had ever acted like this. Every prey animal in its experience ran or hid or froze. None of them charged toward it, screaming without fear. Tay took a step forward. Still yelling, the predator took a step back in its millions of years of evolution. It had never encountered a persistence predator. It had never met a species that hunted by refusing to give up, by following prey for days until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. It had never faced an animal that had clawed its way to the top of a Class 12 death world through sheer stubbornness. It saw something in Tay's eyes that it had never seen before. It saw a creature that was not afraid to die. The predator turned and limped away into the jungle. Seeking easier prey, Tay stopped yelling. He lowered his arms. He turned back to face his group. 12 alien cadets stared at him with expressions ranging from shock to awe. Ren was holding his personal recording device. He had captured everything. "What are you?" Ren whispered. "What kind of species does that?" Tay walked past them without answering. "The path is clear. We should move." They followed him in silence. That evening, they reached the extraction point. Tay's group was the first to arrive. Other survivors trickled in over the next several hours, but none of them were uninjured. Many could barely walk. Commander Volus was waiting at the landing zone. His 8 limbs were folded formally. His dark eyes studied each arriving cadet with careful attention. When he saw Tay, he went very still. "Cadet," Volus said slowly, "your file says you are Kethri?" "Yes, Commander." "Kethri cannot survive unassisted in this environment. Their biology does not allow it." Tay met his gaze without flinching. "My subspecies has unusual adaptations." Volus leaned closer, his mandibles clicking softly. "What colony did you say you were from?" "I did not say, Commander." They stared at each other for a long moment. Then Volus straightened and turned away. "Report to Admiral Sauron when you return to the station. She wants to speak with you personally." Tay nodded. He knew what that meant. His cover was broken. The truth was coming out. He looked up at the sky, where the transport ships were descending to collect the survivors. Somewhere beyond those clouds, beyond this solar system, Earth was spinning through space. His people were waiting for him to open the door. It was time to show the galaxy what humanity could do. The great chamber of the Galactic Coalition Council was built to intimidate. Its ceiling rose so high that clouds formed in the upper levels. Its walls were lined with the flags of 800 member species. Its floor was a single piece of polished crystal that reflected light and rainbow. Patterns.com, Tay stood at the center of this vast space. Surrounded by thousands of alien faces, Admiral Sauron had summoned him here directly from the Academy. There had been no time to rest, no time to prepare. The Council had demanded answers, and they would not wait. "Let the record show," the Chief Counselor announced, "that we are gathered to address the matter of Salthri and its native species." Whispers rippled through the chamber. The mythical death world. The impossible survivors. The bedtime stories that had turned out to be real. Bring forward the subject. Tay walked to the speaking platform. His academy uniform was torn and dirty from the survival exam. He had not slept in 2 days, but he stood straight and faced the council without fear. Beside him, Yunhana appeared through a side entrance. She wore the formal dress of a human diplomat, the first of her kind to stand in this chamber. Her presence confirmed what many had suspected. Humanity was real, and they were already here. "You stand before this council as a representative of your species," the chief counselor said. "We have questions. You will answer them honestly." "I will," Tay replied. "First, how did your species survive on a Class 12 death world without technology?" Tay took a deep breath. "We did not survive without technology. We invented technology because we needed it to survive. Fire, clothing, shelter, tools, medicine. Each generation built on what the previous generation created. We adapted our environment to suit our needs instead of adapting our bodies. Second, your records indicate multiple extinction-level events on Earth. Ice ages, asteroid impacts, supervolcanic eruptions. How did you survive these?" "We almost did not," Tay admitted. "At one point, human population dropped to less than 10,000 individuals. We were nearly gone, but we kept going. We moved to new lands. We learned new skills. We helped each other survive." The council members exchanged glances. A species that had faced extinction and refused to accept it was a dangerous thing indeed. "Third, your history shows constant warfare among your own kind. Millions killed by other humans. If you cannot live peacefully with yourselves, how can we trust you to live peacefully with us?" This was the question Tay had been expecting, the one that would determine humanity's fate. He looked out at the thousands of faces watching him. Some showed curiosity. Some showed fear. Some showed hostility. "You are right," he said quietly. "We have fought terrible wars. We have done horrible things to each other. There is darkness in human history that I cannot defend or explain." He paused. "But that is not the whole story." He stepped closer to the edge of the platform. "Humans also created music that makes us weep with joy. We painted pictures that capture beauty so perfectly that viewers stand frozen before them. We wrote stories that have been told for thousands of years because they speak to something deep in our souls." His voice grew stronger. "We built hospitals to heal strangers. We created schools to educate the young. We established laws to protect the weak. Every time humanity fell into darkness, someone stood up and pulled us back toward the light." He pointed to Hannah. "This woman traveled across the galaxy to stand beside me today. Not because she was ordered to, because she chose to. Because humans choose to help each other, even when it is difficult, even when it is dangerous." One so sim sen some as a cell sen sem sa I sen some sensa sen 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 s s s s n s n s s s s n s n s n s sen sen sepum sa sa sen s s s m sen s s s m sen sen. "You asked why you should trust us. My answer is this. We survived Earth not because we were the strongest, or the fastest, or the most deadly. We survived because we learned to work together. We learned to protect each other. We learned that a group is stronger than any individual." He spread his hands. "We did not come here to conquer you. We came here because we spent thousands of years looking up at the stars and wondering if anyone else was out there. We came here because the same instinct that made us cross oceans and climb mountains made us build ships to reach other worlds." His voice dropped to almost a whisper. "We came here because we were lonely. Because we wanted to meet you." Silence filled the chamber. No one moved. No one spoke. Then from the academy section, someone started clapping. It was Rin, the silenthy cadet who had mocked humans as myths and bedtime stories. He stood alone in the crowd, his bioluminescent skin glowing warm colors. Bringing his appendages together in the human gesture of approval he had learned from Tay, others joined him. A few at first, then more, then hundreds. The sound built and built until the great chamber echoed with applause. The chief counselor raised a limb for silence. The council will vote, she announced. All in favor of opening diplomatic relations with the human species of Sol 3. The voting indicators lit up across the chamber. Green for yes. Red for no. Tay watched as the colors spread. Green appeared in clusters, then in waves. A few red lights held out, but they were overwhelmed by the sea of green surrounding them. The motion passes, the chief counselor declared, by a margin of 712 to 88. The Galactic Coalition welcomes humanity as a provisional member species. Hannah grabbed Tay's arm, her eyes bright with tears. We did it, she breathed. We actually did it. 6 months later, the first official human delegation arrived at the Coalition capital. Tay waited at the docking bay, wearing the new uniform of a Coalition liaison officer. Ren stood beside him. Having requested permanent assignment to the Human Integration Program, the delegation ship opened its doors, and humans poured out. Scientists with eager faces, diplomats with careful smiles, artists with curious eyes, children with wonder written across their features. A young girl broke away from the group and ran to the observation window. She pressed her hands against the glass and stared at the swirling nebula outside, her mouth open in amazement. It is so beautiful, she whispered. Ren watched her with something like wonder of his own. Your species survives the worst planet in the galaxy, and the first thing your children do is look for beauty? Tay smiled, showing his teeth openly for the first time since arriving at the academy. That is how we survived, he said. We never stopped believing the universe had something worth finding. The little girl turned and saw Tay watching her. She smiled back at him, a bright and fearless smile. Are there more stars out there? She asked. More than you could ever count, Tay told her. Can we visit them? Tay looked at Ren, then at Hannah, then at the vast galaxy spreading out beyond the window. Yes, he said. We can visit all of them. The girl laughed and ran back to her parents, already asking when they could leave for the next adventure. Ren shook his head slowly. You people are insane, maybe Tay agreed, but we are also curious, and stubborn, and hopeful. He watched the human delegation disperse into the station, each person carrying a piece of Earth with them into the stars. We are the children of a death world, Hay said quietly, and we have finally come home. Above them, the nebula burned with the light of 1 billion suns. Each one a promise waiting to be kept. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same.